He who wishes to be obeyed must know how to command. This is not merely a quote from a long-dead philosopher. It is a sacred key, a divine whisper from the universe meant for your soul at this very moment. It speaks to the silent, often brutal war raging within you, the war for the throne of your own mind. Have you ever felt this internal battle? A struggle between the person you know you are destined to be and the chaotic impulses that seek to pull you under. If these words vibrate with the truth in your soul, if you feel that deep, resonant hum of recognition, then let the universe know by typing "I am the prince of myself" in the comments below. Affirm your sovereignty. Like this video to anchor this new frequency of self-mastery, and subscribe to continue this sacred journey of awakening and commanding your own destiny. You are not alone in this fight, and today, you will be armed for victory. You have been living under a profound and pervasive deception, a lie so deeply woven into the fabric of our modern world that it feels like truth. Ever since you first learned to navigate this reality, you have been taught that discipline is a simple equation of willpower. You have been told that the path to your higher self is paved with more effort, with just trying harder when the shadow of laziness falls upon you. They sold you the illusion that waking up at dawn and meticulously crafting lists could somehow mend the deep, foundational cracks in your being. You were led to believe that by simply organizing the surface of your life, by arranging the deck chairs, you could somehow prevent the magnificent ship of your destiny from sinking. This is the great spiritual anesthetic of our time, a comforting falsehood designed to keep you from the real, transformative work. It suggests that a superficial tidying of your outer world can miraculously heal the deep-seated rot that exists in the very foundations of your soul, the unhealed wounds and shadow aspects that no to-do list can ever touch. But the truth, the raw and unfiltered truth of the universe, is both brutal and liberating. True discipline, the kind that forges empires and awakens souls, has nothing to do with these fleeting bursts of random effort. It is not about waking each day with a magical, unearned surge of motivation. That is a fantasy, a child's wish, in a world governed by unyielding universal laws. The discipline that liberates is not a gentle suggestion, it is a declaration of war. It is the beginning of a sacred, internal war against the parts of you that have held you captive for far too long. In this war, there is no neutrality, there is no middle ground. There are only two outcomes. Either you rise to become the absolute sovereign of your mind, governing it with the strategic precision of a prince leading his army into a righteous battle, or you will be utterly and mercilessly crushed by the relentless onslaught of your own unexamined weaknesses. Look around you, and you will see the casualties of this unspoken war everywhere. Most people navigate their existence not as sovereign rulers of their inner kingdom, but as decaying, forgotten cities. Their walls of resolve are crumbling, their gates of intention are left wide open, and they are constantly invaded by the marauding armies of fleeting impulses and external distractions. They are endlessly sabotaged by their own internal disorder, their life's energy plundered by the whims of the moment. They become the easiest of victims to the very first temptation that crosses their path, the first whisper of doubt, the first pang of fear. They drift through life as easy prey, never realizing that without the spiritual armor of strategic discipline, there can be no true freedom, there can be no authentic strength, there can be no lasting victory. They are enslaved by the very chaos they refuse to confront, forever reacting to life instead of creating it, never understanding that the chains that bind them were forged in the fires of their own inaction. And here lies the most brutal, and perhaps the cruelest, part of this cosmic law. The throne of your life, the seat of your personal power and destiny, is never, ever empty, not for a single moment. The instant you fail to govern yourself, the very second you abdicate your divine right to rule, you are not creating a void, you are issuing an invitation. You are handing the keys to your kingdom, the very scepter of your destiny, to someone or something else. It may be a fleeting desire, a crippling fear, a past trauma, or the subtle influence of another's will. Some other force, any impulse that blows stronger than your unfortified will seize the throne and begin to rule your life for you. Life, like a throne, is never empty. The question is not if it will be occupied, but by whom. Will you, with absolute dominion and divine right, occupy your place? Or will you be governed by the chaos you fail to command, becoming a puppet in the unfolding of your own life story? If you believe that discipline is merely about waking up a little earlier on the days you feel motivated, you have already lost the war. Forget this childish notion. If you think that simply wanting to be firm is enough to hold your ground against the tempests of life, you are preparing for certain defeat. Forget this naive belief. This message, these sacred truths, are not for those who seek the comfortable advice of a world that profits from your weakness. This is not for the faint of heart, or for those looking for another easy fix. This is a battle cry for the warriors, for the souls who are finally ready to take on the profound and brutal responsibility of shaping themselves, of forging their own spirit with the same deliberate force that a master craftsman shapes a sword from raw, unyielding steel. True discipline demands nothing less than constant, unwavering vigilance. It requires strategic, conscious planning and a relentless, non-negotiable self-control that borders on the divine. It demands that you build an impenetrable fortress within your own soul, a sacred citadel where the chaotic winds of luck and circumstance have no power, a stronghold where the armies of chaos find no gaps, no weaknesses, and no entry. Today, you will receive the blueprint for this inner fortress. You will finally understand why the great thinker Niccolo Machiavelli, one of the most misunderstood and spiritually pragmatic figures in history, treated discipline not as a lifestyle choice, but as a vital state secret, the non-negotiable foundation of all power and freedom. He did not write to console fools or to offer empty platitudes. He wrote to train strategists, to arm the minds of those willing to face the harsh, unadorned reality of power. He knew, with a chilling clarity, that the world does not reward the well-intentioned. It rewards the disciplined. It rewards those who, even under immense pressure, even when surrounded by the madness and disorder of the world, can maintain absolute control and command over their inner state. For Machiavelli, discipline was never a moral choice or a beautiful, abstract ideal. It was a raw, visceral matter of survival. He understood that without this core strength, both the king and the peasant, the ruler and the ruled, were ultimately doomed to the same fate, ruin. And if you have the courage, the true spiritual grit, to apply what you are about to learn, your life will never be the same again. This is your moment of awakening. This is your call to arms. When we consider discipline from this sacred Machiavellian perspective, we must immediately and permanently forget any childish idea of willpower that is based on the fleeting whims of motivation. This is the first great illusion we must shatter. For Machiavelli, discipline is not an emotion, it is a structure. It is not a feeling, it is a strategy. It is the very architecture of survival. He saw that without this deliberate, engineered internal structure, even the most promising and talented of men becomes easy prey for the chaotic forces he cannot control, both from within and without. In his masterwork, The Prince, Machiavelli states, "For just as the good order of the militias is the origin of good order in the states, discipline is what enables a city or an army to withstand adversities." He makes it unequivocally clear that without this foundational discipline, neither cities nor armies, and by extension, nor individuals, can possibly endure. The external order you see in a stable state, the strength of a government, is merely a reflection of its internal order, its underlying discipline. By this same universal law, there is no lasting conquest for those who are slaves to their own impulses. There can be no real authority for those who do not first govern themselves. What Machiavelli saw with a clarity that still frightens the modern soul is that discipline is not an accessory for times of peace and comfort. It is your permanent, spiritual armor. Discipline, for him, is the very element that keeps a ruler and, by extension, you steady and resolute in the face of the overwhelming temptation to act out of anger, fear, or vanity. It is the cultivated ability to maintain your sacred strategy even when everything around you and everything inside you cries out for impulsive, destructive decisions. An undisciplined prince, Machiavelli warned, is infinitely more dangerous to himself than any external enemy. Why? Because his ruin will not come from the declared adversaries outside his walls. It will spring forth from the very internal gaps he refused to seal, from the traitors of impulse and emotion that he allowed to fester within his own court. He understood that acting without calculation, moving without preparation, and reacting without reflection are the surest paths to utter downfall. Discipline, therefore, is not something to be practiced only when it feels convenient or inspiring. It must be cultivated day in and day out as a rigorous, unyielding habit, like the constant, diligent maintenance of a fortress wall that protects a great city against the inevitable decay of time and the certainty of future attacks. Machiavelli saw human beings as they are, inherently vulnerable to the corruption of desire, pride, and fear. He knew that only through relentless, conscious vigilance over oneself could it be possible to resist this powerful, innate force of self-destruction. And do not for a moment think this profound principle applied only to the rulers of states. Every single individual who wishes to become the master of their own destiny must apply this very same mental and spiritual discipline. If you do not govern your own mind, it will be mercilessly governed by circumstances, by the chaotic emotions of the moment, and by the endless barrage of external impulses. And those who are governed by others, for Machiavelli, are already politically and spiritually dead. They just have not yet fallen. But his thought goes even deeper, into the very heart of how reality itself functions. He compares the human spirit to a battlefield where discipline is the only definitive line between triumphant victory and total annihilation. It is precisely this powerful metaphor of the internal war, and the understanding of how it must be fought with the discipline of a true commander, that we will now explore. This is the secret to transforming your inner world from a territory ruled by chaos into a kingdom commanded by your sovereign will. This is the path to becoming the prince of yourself. In Machiavelli's brutal and unadorned view of existence, fate, or Fortuna, is not a just entity that rewards the good and punishes the bad. That is a comforting fairy tale. Fate is a blind, relentless, and chaotic force, like a raging, impetuous river that, when it floods, sweeps away the unprepared and destroys the poorly protected cities without a thought for their virtue or merit. He writes in The Prince, "Fortune is like one of those impetuous rivers that, when they become enraged, flood the fields, topple trees and buildings, lift the earth from one side and deposit it on another. Each one flees from them, all yield to their fury, unable to resist. But although they are thus furious, this does not prevent men, in times of calm, from taking precautions with dikes and barriers." This metaphor is immensely powerful and should resonate within you as a spiritual war alert. The world is unpredictable, often violent, and completely indifferent to your dreams and empty promises. Those who naively expect luck to smile upon them without any preparation are simply condemning themselves to ruin. Only those who build their own internal decasa, disciplined mind, a fortified character, an unbreakable will can possibly withstand the inevitable storms of life. And this is where virtue comes in. This is one of the deepest and most crucial concepts of Machiavellian thought. Virtue is not virtue in the simple moral sense. Virtue is internal power. It is the ability to adapt, to act with strength, intelligence, and resilience in the face of adversity. It is the capacity to act strategically, to shape circumstances, rather than being helplessly shaped by them. Virtue is discipline in action. It is the very expression of your ability to stand firm when everything around you crumbles, to create opportunities where others see only despair, and to resist the childish, fatal impulse to blame luck or fate for your own failures. For Machiavelli, great men do not depend on luck. They challenge it, they bend it, they use it as a tool, but never as an excuse. They build their own dikes before the flood. They cultivate discipline before the crisis demands a strength they do not possess. They train their minds for war while others are still sleeping, cradled by the sweet illusion that everything will just turn out fine in the end. Now, Look at your own life with that same brutal honesty. How many times have you waited for circumstances to improve on their own? How many times have you hidden behind the convenient excuse that the moment was not right, that you were not feeling it? You must understand that fortune, for Machiavelli, is unpredictable, but it is not invincible. Those who depend solely on it are doomed. But those who cultivate virtue, who build their inner fortress brick by brick, day by day, can not only survive the storms of fate, but can actually thrive within them. But how do you turn this powerful philosophy into daily, tangible practice? How do you stop being a mere plaything of luck and become the conscious builder of your own destiny? This is precisely what we will reveal now. We will deconstruct the great modern illusion of discipline and expose why most people fail so miserably in their attempts to achieve it. This is your chance to learn the timeless strategies that separate the sovereign from the slave, the victor from the victim. Today, the sacred word discipline has been utterly hijacked. It has been transformed into a cheap, mass-marketed shelf product, wrapped in the glossy, comforting packaging of self-help slogans and sold as an easy trick, a simple life hack. To discipline oneself, they say, is to create automatic habits. It's about using apps, colorful planners, and motivational spreadsheets. It's as if humanity's oldest and most profound battle, the mastery over one's own self, could be won with gentle reminders on a phone and a few inspirational quotes. This modern view is a grotesque and dangerous farce. If Machiavelli were alive today, he would laugh with bitter contempt at this profound naivety. He knew, with the certainty of a man who had seen empires rise and fall, that true discipline is not comfortable. It is not easy. It is not something you passively install in your life like a piece of software. Discipline is pain. It is a declared and total war against everything that is weak, lazy, and cowardly within you. You fail to be disciplined because you have been conditioned by a soft, decadent world to constantly seek shortcuts and avoid discomfort at all costs. You have been trained to believe that if you just find the right habit, the perfect morning routine, your life will magically align without any real inner struggle. But real, transformative discipline does not arise from comfort. It is born from confrontation. It is not about waking up inspired to act. It is about acting even when your body screams for rest, even when your mind desperately tries to negotiate a surrender. Machiavelli taught us that those who wait for the perfect moment, for the perfect feeling, are already defeated. Preparation must be done during times of calm, not when the storm has already arrived. Discipline must be built on the most monotonous of days, in the most silent of moments, in the invisible, daily battles we fight far away from the world's judging eyes. It is in what no one else sees that your true power, your virtue, is forged. But the modern mindset treats failure as something normal, an acceptable part of the process. You are taught to forgive yourself too much, to reward yourself for every micro-victory, as if life were a self-esteem competition and not a brutal matter of real, spiritual survival. And while you anesthetize yourself with these flimsy excuses, your true potential rots from the inside out. Modern discipline is emotional. It depends on your mood, your fleeting motivation, your immediate environment. The discipline that Machiavelli describes is structural. It ignores mood. It despises motivation. It imposes itself as a mental fortress made of unyielding stone, not of wavering emotion. Those who wait to feel ready to act live like cattle being led to the slaughter, forever waiting for someone or something else to decide their fate. If you want to build the discipline that forges empires, the discipline that allows a person to command their own destiny, you will have to do what most will never, ever do. Abandon the need to feel comfortable. Accept that pain is an integral part of the forging process. Embrace the hardness. Transform your mind from a pleasure garden into a military training ground where weaknesses are not tolerated, but systematically and ruthlessly eliminated. And if you have truly understood the gravity of what we are discussing, if you feel the fire of this truth in your gut, then you are ready for the next step. You are ready to learn how to build, step by step, a brutal and strategic daily routine based on Machiavelli's timeless principles. A routine so powerful, so unyielding that it is capable of making your discipline, and therefore your will, absolutely unbreakable. That is what we will build in the final part of this message. It is time to abandon the empty, comfortable theories of a world that fears true strength. If you want to win the war for your soul, you need to turn the concept of discipline into a brutal, daily, and inflexible practice. It's not enough to intellectually understand the importance of discipline. You must embody it. You need to build an internal structure so solid, so unyielding, that neither your laziness, nor your fear, nor your doubt has any room left to survive. Machiavelli taught that the wise prince anticipates disasters. He builds his defenses long before he needs them. You must do the same with your mind. Establish your internal war strategies before the battle begins. If you wake up every single day waiting to see how you feel in order to act, you have already lost. Your victory or defeat in the game of life will be decided in the quiet, early hours of the morning, long before the world even realizes you are in the game. Here is the method, the Machiavellian way. 1. Constant vigilance through daily self-observation. Every day, without a single exception, you must observe your own thoughts and behaviors as a general inspects his army before a great battle. Ask yourself, where am I leaving gaps in my defenses? At what moments are my fleeting emotions taking command? If you allow even a small, seemingly innocent habit of laziness, a single harmless excuse, or a silly distraction to settle in, you must know this. These are the cracks through which total failure will eventually invade and conquer your fortress. Imagine your mind as a castle. Every act of laziness is a stone removed from the wall. Every moment of procrastination is a catapult aimed directly at your own defenses. Constant vigilance means acting like the commander who, even in times of peace, inspects his defenses every single day, corrects flaws the moment they appear, and punishes any sign of decay or disloyalty without mercy. 2. Clear strategy through non-negotiable routines. You must understand a brutal truth about your own mind. Your brain, if given the option, will always choose the path of least resistance. Every decision you have to make requires energy. Every doubt you entertain consumes precious willpower. Machiavelli taught that in times of uncertainty, those who hesitate die. Therefore, building discipline starts by eliminating as many daily decisions as possible. Rigid routines are not a prison. They are the very definition of true freedom. You must establish fixed, non-negotiable times to wake up, to work, to study, to train, and you must adhere to them as a soldier follows orders on the battlefield, without question and without hesitation. A practical example: if you wait to decide whether to train after a long, tiring day at work, guess what? You will not train. Your exhausted, comfort-seeking brain will sabotage you every single time. Now, if you turn that training session into a non-negotiable commitment, a sacred ritual that is as much a part of your identity as breathing, there is no room for internal negotiation. The decision has already been made. Training simply happens. Period. 3. Relentless reinforcement with real consequences. In the real world, actions have consequences. In war, a mistake is not a minor detail. It is the difference between life and death. You must create tangible consequences for your own actions. If you fail to follow your established routines, there must be an immediate, tangible, and painful price for your mind to pay, so that it understands, on a visceral level, that failing is not an acceptable option. Another practical example: establish a public commitment. If you fail to follow your routine, you must donate a significant amount of money to a political cause or a charity that you despise. You must publicly tell your friends and family that you failed. You must carry the real weight of shame and loss. And more importantly, you must understand that this form of discipline is not just about rewards. It is mainly about avoiding the ruin that comes from weakness. A simple comparison to fix the idea: think of a soldier in training. He does not choose whether to run 5 kilometers in the freezing rain because he feels motivated. He runs because there is a chain of command, because he knows that failure to obey means punishment, shame, and possibly expulsion. Your mind must work the same way. It obeys because it is the right thing to do for the greater strategy, not because it is comfortable. This is the hard truth that so few are willing to accept. Building real, Machiavellian discipline is like putting chains on yourself before life puts its shackles on you. It is making hardness a daily ritual. It is waking up every day and, without feeling sorry for yourself, marching towards your goal with the cold, calculating focus of a relentless commander. Now that you know what you need to do, a deeper, more profound question arises. Why, despite knowing all this, do so many people continue to sabotage their own lives? It is this silent sabotage, this secret war against oneself, that we will expose and teach you to destroy in the final part of this message. If what you're hearing resonates with you, you'll find real value in my book, Beyond the Shadow. It breaks down Jung's core ideas and gives you tools to understand yourself more deeply. The link is in the pinned comment. If you have made it this far, you need to understand one final critical thing. Knowledge without action is cowardice. Many will hear these words, feel the cutting truth within them, and yet they will return to their comfortable lives of excuses, procrastination, and self-sabotage. They will go back to being subjects of their own impulses, slaves to their own weaknesses, forever begging for crumbs of luck while cursing the fate they refuse to command. But some, a select few, will make the choice that transforms ordinary men into commanders of their own destiny. The choice to stop being governed and to start governing. The choice to build true discipline, not as a fragile ornament for good days, but as an unbreakable, all-weather mechanism that sustains their entire existence. Machiavelli taught us that governing a state without discipline is a sure invitation to disorder and collapse. Now you know that governing your life without discipline is exactly the same. Your mind is your territory. Your habits are your troops. Your decisions are your strategies of war. You will be the prince, or you will be the prisoner. There is no middle ground. There never was. Perhaps you think you still have time. You believe you can start tomorrow, or next week, or when things get better. But Machiavelli warned us with timeless wisdom. The prince who waits for the perfect moment to act will be utterly destroyed by the first tide of misfortune. The moment is now. While you have strength, while you can still raise the walls of your inner fortress, you must act. Discipline yourself, not for pleasure, not for the approval of others, not for aesthetics. Discipline yourself because your life depends on it, because your freedom depends on it, because your greatness demands it. And now, I want to hear from you in the comments. I want you to make a public declaration, a sacred commitment. Write, I choose to be my own prince. Write this as a public commitment to yourself and to the universe. Let this be recorded as the first conscious, deliberate act of discipline in your new journey. It's not for me, it's for you. So that you remember, always, that the first and most important step to mastering the world is mastering yourself. And more importantly, do not stop here. This is only the beginning. Continue your transformation. The next video in this series is vital to further strengthen your mind so that every decision you make from this day forward is a firm, decisive step towards total mastery over yourself. Watch, reflect, evolve. You are still just beginning to forge yourself.